There's something fascinating about Fire Force, especially when compared to Soul Eater, the author's previous work. Now, Soul Eater was enjoyable to watch, it's just that I didn't enjoy it nearly as much as a lot of other people did. It always felt like there was something missing, where aspects of the narrative and the world building were concerned, generally glossed over in favor of, well, and don't get me wrong, I too thoroughly enjoy high-octane action sequences featuring enough destructive force to level entire cities as much as the next weeb. It's just that lore and world building can be lower in priority than said action where shonen anime is concerned. And when you take a look at a few other popular shonen anime, such as ninja wizard battles, way too long and convoluted to get into, but you know, it's a pandemic so you might as well. The heroes and the villains aren't so different. Teen Edition. And should have ended right after the first major arc. Some of these also sometimes place less of a priority on lore and world building. So, since I was hearing a mild amount of hype around Fire Force, I decided to kick back and relax and enjoy some good old high-octane action. I got what I came for. And surprisingly, a bit more than that too. Within the first 3 episodes, a surprisingly dense amount of world building occurs. Although dryly vomiting out information in the form of a lore dump should be avoided,
the perpetual thermal energy plant. The Empire is the beneficiary of its vast energy, and has made further advancements of its own.
Can we get down to it, or does the story keep going?
this still does give us some good insights. The history of the world which Fire Force presents us with is made even more interesting by the way it handles its apocalypse, rather than the typical narrative of the wolves came, humanity nearly destroyed itself, and now we all live in the wasteland. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is still pretty close to that. The idea of a single last bastion of humanity in a post-apocalyptic world isn't new, so the way that it distinguishes itself isn't original either. However, the way it brings all these elements together is what I find truly fascinating. There's a religion which has seemingly subsumed all other modalities of faith, yet not in a way that undermines the freedom and autonomy of individuals. At least, not on the surface. No, on the contrary, it is a lifeline for many people, in a world where they know they could one day randomly cough at some ash and be like, well, shit. The Fire Defense Agency and the Tokyo Armed Forces are both vaguely presented as being geared towards the defense and protection of the people. They are both usually relegated to the background, except in a few instances where we see their involvement in operational, bureaucratic, or political maneuvering. On the other hand, Hajime Industries is the mysterious and inscrutable force behind technological advancement and secret developments who may be involved in darker dealings. You know, your stereotypical shady tech company. Just like real life. Beyond all that, I could get into discussions about the Evangelist and her organization, Adola,
till I finally find someone who can host the pilot light! Ah!
but we're focusing on world building over strict plot progression, so I'd like to look at a few other things. For example, in episode 4, where we're shown that public opinion of the Fire Defense Agency, FDA, has soured recently due to one firefighter in particular going all stab happy and murdering 4 people. However, it so happens that the powers that be within the legal system are more interested in preserving the image of the FDA than meting out justice, showing that there's clear bias and corruption where government and law enforcement are concerned. That they're more concerned with accommodating specific entities that hold measurable power than upholding the rule of law to empower the people. Just like real life. And this kind of strong influence from powerful groups asserting control over institutions made to protect and serve the people extends into the Fire Force itself. Which then means that each company in the Fire Force has its own agenda laid out by the groups or organizations giving them backing and support. Intrigue and conspiracy abounds. And that's even without getting into
All is in accordance with the will of the evangelist. I wanted to take you away to receive the evangelist's teaching!
But the most interesting part of all of this is the single Fire Force company without an agenda from an outside force, which invariably directly relates to the way the world and society within this story is constructed. The way people from the rest of the Tokyo Empire seem to view people from Asakusa is very telling. It's pretty clear to see that the leadership of the empire frowns upon overt cultural and societal holdovers from before the apocalypse. So the fact that Benimaru and his people are referred to as proto-nationalist makes a lot of sense. The Tokyo Empire itself is portrayed as a hegemony under which people from various cultures and ethnicities have found refuge. So how much cultural expression exists from the old world? How much of a grasp do the people of the empire have on the histories of the various places their ancestors came from? Are movies and TV shows and music still produced? I'd actually like to know all of these things, since it would give some insight and depth into how culture and society have evolved. But it is still just a shonen anime, so I can't ask for too much. As it stands though, the fact is that there are groups of people who shun the new paradigm and hold fast to the old traditions of their country. Well, what's left of it. Refusing to take part in what they consider to be, and actually is, cultural suppression for the sake of having a unified nation. That's very interesting. I'd like to see what other dynamics exist within the Tokyo Empire. Well, you know. Besides...
I don't think so, kids!
Still, it is what it is. It's a shonen anime. Not everything needs to be a high-minded masterpiece of orgasmic intellectualism. But for what it's worth, the world building is pretty damn interesting. Well, thanks for watching. I had fun coming up with this video. And as long as you had a bit of fun watching it, then well, that's all I can really ask for. There's gonna be more of these videos in the future with the label "What is Lore" attached. Kinda doing a little thing here, an ad hoc series, if you will. As ideas come to me. Nothing too serious, just having fun with it. And if that interests you, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe buttons. You know, do it for Rekka.